And so, game week 22, it's not quite in the books just yet, but we know enough of the situation to see the state of play and to know where the game week is going to end up. And it has not been an inspiring game week by any stretch of the imagination. It has been one of those game weeks where all the big players fail to produce. No goals for Man City, no goals for Arsenal, no goals for Aston Villa, only one goal for Liverpool and no goals for my beloved Newcastle. And it has not been a week of points. And you could say, in many respects, it would have been a terrible week to take an 8-point hit. But that's what your pal, the Nightmare, did. Yes, I said in my plan on my walk-in preview video the other day, I said, I'm weighing up the 8-point hit. I am contemplating this risky move at this crucial juncture in the season to save the wild card for later, for maximum impact further down the line. And it was a risky move. And, there was some people that weren't happy. Some people were deeply upset. Colm was so disappointed in me. Colm said he could not understand why I'd done it, why I'd reverted to the old Nightmare ways. We had the D unit. He was disappointed in me. He couldn't understand the moves I've made, even though he likes the hit. He likes the idea of a hit. He did not like the actual hit I'd taken. He could not see where the points were coming from. And Trigger, he found it quite amusing because once again he thought I've thrown away the points, but here we are. The game week is almost over, and somehow in such a low scoring game week, your old pal the FPL Nightmare, he's on a minor green arrow. And how did I do it? Well, this is the funny thing, because the reason I am on that minor green arrow is because I went against Erling Haaland. I went against Hugo Ekitike with the captain's armband. And I give it to my man, Gabriel, the angel, coming in, swooping in with the points just as we speak. He has been updated to 2 bonus points. 16 points on my captaincy this game week, in a week where the vast majority of the field only got 4 points. And that, you could say it's fortuitous. You could say, well, Nightmare, it doesn't really count when you're considering the value of the hit. It doesn't really count when you're assessing whether the hit paid off. But I would counter that by saying that it's the mindset that is prepared to take a -8 at an inconvenient juncture. That is the same mindset that is prepared to captain a central defender away from home. And look, I thought it would be better. I thought that double-figure haul was coming. It did not. Arsenal, from what I saw, were deeply uninspiring. And like me man Kanji from the pubcast, he says, Arsenal have got the title in the bag. Everybody thinks Arsenal have got the title in the bag. I don't think it's that simple. Because what have we learned about Arsenal over the 5 or 6 years Mikel Arteta's been there? They are always in such a great position until February, until March. And then the mindset starts failing. Then the fatigue kicks in. The tired minds become tired bodies. And then they fade away from the race. And yes, they have got that lead. Yes, they extended it this weekend, I think, by a point. But they have really lost 2 points in my mind because they should have beaten Forest. That is a game you have to be winning if you want to be the champions. Now, what might save them is that nobody else really seems like challenging. Man City went to dust against Man United. Liverpool nowhere near the pace. Aston Villa, the surprise potential challengers, they have fluffed their lines this afternoon in a game which was crucial to my game week. But it might be Arsenal do manage to pull it off. And I've heard people say if Arsenal win, it'll be almost by default. It won't be the same as a proper title win, but it would be. They said the same about Liverpool last year. Maybe we just need to accept that winning the title does not involve a runaway success, winning week after week after week after week. This is not the Spanish League. This is not the Scottish League. This is the English Premier League. And in the English Premier League, teams don't win over and over and over. That is not the way traditionally it has happened. Yes, Man City have made a mockery of that in recent years. And yes, Jurgen Klopp pushed them all the way. But that's not the way it's done normally. And it's the same in FPL. It's not about winning every week. You can't win FPL by winning every week. You can't make those rank games by winning every week. And I took that chance to take the step back and to rebuild my squad, my strategy, my master plan for the rest of the season. And whether it'll pay off, we just don't know. Now look at the moves I made. The first one, 10 days before the deadline, I took out Voltemada and I brought in your man Igor Thiago, and it was a move out of fear. I did think Thiago could do well. Brentford should have scored yesterday, they didn't. It is what it is, you know. But what I also saw was enough from Newcastle to know that I need them gone. Like, Voltemada just doesn't cut the mustard. I have worries about him as a Premier League player at all, if I'm honest with you, because while he had that good start, certainly in Newcastle, I just don't think he'll ever fit an Eddie Howe system. He's a number 10 playing as a number 9, and that is not a route to success. So I got rid of him. And like, if I'd have kept him, yes, I would have had 4 extra points in the bank. But I would have still had to deal with Voltemada. I would have been a transfer down in the future. So that's fine, you know. Not great. Maybe Thiago isn't the answer over the next few weeks. But I've seen enough. Newcastle there for the taking. Villa, I think they're there for the taking. You know, I'm not going to play them against Arsenal, so that's not an issue. So 4 points down. Then the other one I made, it was Nico O'Reilly to Jurrien Timber. 6 point gain because O'Reilly got a -1, Timber got 5 points. So if we're keeping track, I am -4 plus 2. So I'm 2 points up. And then, of course, I sold Cunha for James Garner, and the matched the points, and that leaves us equal. That leaves me 2 points down on the hit. Is that a bad thing? People will say, oh, that's a sign you shouldn't have done it. But I disagree, because now, essentially what I have done with my master plan for the run into that game week 32 wildcard, which I reiterate is the best time to wildcard. Certainly for my team, I would argue for pretty much any team. Who are you going to get in game week 24 that you couldn't get with a couple of transfers, maybe even a hit? And this is the argument I'm making. I took the -8. I lost out on 2 points, but I gained 2 transfers. Would you pay a point for an extra transfer? I would. I'd probably pay a point for a transfer every week. Well, I've got 2 of them for nothing. Well, for 2 points, 2 transfers in the bank, 2 transfers to attack the run-in at the end of the season. And, you know, the rest of my team, I'll put it up on the screen just there. Henderson, 2 points. Timber, 5 points. Gabriel, captain, up to 16 points. Lewis Hall, 8 points. Rice and Bruno G, 3 points each. Foden, 1 point. Boo. James Garner, 4 points. Haaland, Thiago Ekitike, 2 points each. And then, of course, on the bench, the 8 points of Tarkovsky and the 6 points of Mukiele, along with Dubravka. And look, it is frustrating because, you know, people, I've had people on the Twitter, I've had people in the Pubcast live chat, they're saying, why is Nightmare gone against his Bruno Guimaraes, Mukiele home rotation? Well, I mean, come on now, it was Wolves. Like, why would I bench an attacking player in form against Wolves when against Burnley in the last game, he went and scored that goal and got 10 points? It's not a thing I'm losing too much sleep over. The big question for me, I did weigh up Foden being benched for Mukiele, and I thought, I just can't do that. That's just not the way to play FPL. Well, maybe it is. I'll get back to that in a minute. And then, of course, the other one I considered was Lewis Hall, benching Hall away from home to start Mukiele. And Lewis Hall beat him. So I feel like I've lost 3 points. It's not the end of the world. But, and them 3 points came from an assist, which you just wouldn't really expect Mukiele to get. Yes, he's got a few this season, but he's not an assist merchant. So I'm not too stressed about that. Tarkowski, he was a tough one, because what it was, I thought, Tarkowski, the DEFCON daddy, until James Garner goes and breaks the DEFCON record, highest amount of DEFCONs on record ever. 29 this game week, incredible from James Garner. And he is an underrated pick. 99 points he's up to now. One of the top midfielders, only 5.1 million. You look at his recent run, his last 7 games, look at all those points. I'll put them up on the screen. Look at that last 7 games. He has got 14 points in 7 games from DEFCON bonuses. Now, you can say Garner is an uninspired pick, but I would say that's 5 assists and a yellow card in 7 games, the equivalent of, for 5.1 million. And of course, he got a goal and an actual assist as well. So if we look at it differently, if we reframe how we interpret these points, that's 6 assists and a goal in 7 games from Garner. Would you turn down, if that was a winger or an attacking midfielder or a striker, would be saying they're a must-have. But because the DEFCON points, they don't seem to have the same value. Well, to me, they do. And I'm happy because it frees up the funds, yes. If I'd have thought about it, I could have freed up a little bit extra funds and got Enzo Lefebvre. He scored, but I discussed that a little bit as well. I don't really want to be locking myself into double Sunderland and double Newcastle. And you can see why when you look at Newcastle's fixture run. And in the league, it's not too bad. The home rotation, it's not too bad. That Guimaraes, Mukiele rotation, it looks fine to me. But it's when you factor in all competitions, when you factor in all the away games, like you look at them, PSG away, PSV away, PSV in the week, PSG away, you've got Man City away in the Cup, we've got Aston Villa away in the FA Cup, and then all them league away games, and these are tough games for Newcastle. Really tough. And we're not in great form. We are terrible on the road. And, questions have to be asked of how, but not on this channel at this moment. This is about FPL. And FPL, if I had the money, I'd be tempted to keep Foden and instead sell Guimaraes for Fernandes. But I've been priced out of that. And that's fine. Maybe I'll get that one extra home haul off Bruno next week. But this is part of the problem, because it's funny, because we all look at the fixtures and you think, how can you sell Foden? He's got Wolves, but everyone's selling Foden now. And to be honest, it's a bit frustrating because I was going to do that popular move. I was going to do that template move last night. And then I thought, I'll just watch this YouTube video about thumbnails. I'll just see if I can keep working to get closer to the Alex Volo level. And I fell asleep. 5 minutes before the deadline. And I've lost 0.2 million, but I'm not worried about the 0.2 million. Because that's why I got Garner. So I don't have to worry about the 0.2 million. And to be honest, if I'd sell Ekatike, I'm never going to have to worry about money for the rest of the season because I'm not asked about Saka, I'm not asked about Salah, not asked about Cole Palmer. Cole the goal, he's an interesting one because he's doing well. He's doing well. maybe I will go for Cole the goal. But then we're talking another hit. Can I take another hit? Maybe. See, this is the problem. I'll bring up my team for next week, and you look at it, and it's a bloody good team, like. And if I bring in Bruno Fernandes, even if I bring in Bruno Fernandes for Foden, it's still a bloody good team. Who are you going to bench? It's really hard because I look at Gabriel, Timber, Tarkowski, Hall, Mukiele. I want to start all of them. Then I look at Rice, Garner, Fernandes, Guimaraes. I want to start all of them. Then, of course, Thiago, Haaland and Ekitike. I want to start all of them. This is why I'm glad I've got Longstaff, because at least there's somebody I actually want to bench. And then I think to myself, is it worth just selling Longstaff for someone? Longstaff to Elliot Anderson, keeping Foden for an extra week and playing the bench boost. You know, get that out of the way. I don't know. Turned around before because there's people walking behind me. And it's dark and it's cold and it's a little bit wet up north. And do you know, my wife, my beautiful wife, she was not like, she's a little bit hungry. She's a little bit hangry, if I'm honest. She's like, I need some tea. I need some tea, Nightmare. Well, she didn't call me Nightmare. I need some tea, you old bastard. No, she said she's starving. She needs some tea. But I needed to come and get this walking video done. I needed to clear my thoughts of FPL so I could enjoy the rest of the night. And I thought, how can I rectify this situation? I know, I'll offer her a pie. Let's have pie and chips for tea. So I went and got the pie, and it takes 55 minutes to cook, so that gives me plenty of time. Plenty of time. It gives me half an hour to cook on the FPL about how to get a bigger piece of the points pie. And maybe we can do that with the bench boost, selling Longstaff, getting in Elliot Anderson maybe, Marcus Tavernier. There's all sorts of, Harry Wilson, all sorts of options, but I don't like that. I don't think anyone should be playing the bench boost. There's an argument to get rid of the bench boost early. Focus your transfers on the 11. I don't think that's a move this season. I really don't. And I'll tell you for why. DEFCONs. Because if you can get 2 defenders and a midfielder on your bench who are good for DEFCONs, it's 24 points off the 3 of them over 2 games. They don't even have to be good. Chris Richards, Marco Senesi, Joachim Anderson. You know, James Tarkowski is a bit more expensive, but like, you could get 2 4.5. Mukiele. You could get James Garner. If you got Mukiele, Joachim Anderson and James Garner as your subs, you're talking what? 14.1 million on your bench. Like, what's that? An extra $1.5 million over the minimum. And you could get 24 points with them doing nothing. Just off them, never mind your keeper. I just don't think it's worth throwing away in a single game week. Not when that 24 points for the DEFCONs is on the table, you know? So that's why I think it's important to keep it for a double. So I'm not going to be going for the Longstaff route, but it is a problem. Because who do you bench? Now I'm thinking Mukiele, West Ham. Like, Mukiele's hurt me a lot this season, even though he's been in my squad. But they've not been good on the road, Sunderland. The numbers are not at the same level. Callum Wilson scores goals. Can he get me 1 goal next week for West Ham? Maybe. You know, Longstaff, obviously. But then who's the third sub? I'm tempted to bench Haaland. I know it sounds stupid, but hear me out. He's done out. You know, what is it he's got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 1 penalty goal. Barely any involvement in the games. He's a passenger. His manager keeps saying, oh, he's exhausted. He's exhausted. Plays him against Exeter to get the confidence up. Does nout. You know? 6 games, 1 penalty goal. Does now against Newcastle in the Cup, 7 games, 1 penalty goal. You've got to play midweek, you know? And is he going to play at the weekend? Is he going to play against the bottom team in the league when Marmoush is back? Semenyo could play centre forward. I don't know. But even if he does it going to matter? I don't know. Like, he looks the obvious captain on paper, but I just don't know. Could I bench Haaland? Sounds daft. Could I bench Ekitike? Sounds daft, but if I bring in Fernandes, I've got Rice, Garner and Fernandes, all of whom could get me the DEFCONs. And I am feeling like going all in on these DEFCON daddies. Been talking about it all season. Maybe now is the time to act. Maybe that is the differential I need. Everyone chasing the points with the goals and the assists, and they're overlooking the garners who garner the points the old-fashioned way, with tackles, with interceptions. I don't know. I'm rambling a bit here because it's not just my wife, I'm also hungry. But it's just a tricky one, you know. Because like next week I could play anyone, and it's tough. But captaincy next week looks like a whole lot of nothing, and I'm tempted. Sounds daft, perhaps, but I'm tempted. Well, I am tempted by Gabriel, permanent captain, but I just don't think that's the way. But at the same time, he's point for point on points per game with Haaland, 7.5 each, I believe it was yesterday. 7.5 points per game. Might have gone down just a touch for the pair of them. Gabriel might even be ahead of him. And if he's getting the points, like earlier this season, I said about Declan Rice. I've been going on about Declan Rice for about 3 months. You know, why is everyone getting Saka instead of Rice? When Rice has done this, you know, like he's averaged over 6 points a game for over a season since assuming set pieces when adjusted for DEFCONs. Over a season of 6 points a game. Everyone still keeps going, Saka. Oh, Saka more likely to get you the haul, is he? I don't think he is. And I said, the reason people aren't getting Declan Rice is positional snobbery. But then I'm looking at my team and how to improve. I keep looking at attackers. And is that the ultimate positional snobbery? Am I guilty of what I see in others? Am I projecting my own flaws onto others to highlight them for myself? Very much so. Because, you know, if I'd have benched Foden and Bruno Guimaraes just today, if I'd have benched Foden and Thiago for Tarkowski and Mukiele, I'd have been, you know, 10 points, 11 points better off. And that's wild. It's wild, but this is the game. And none of us, we're all struggling to accept it. And as we approach the running, now we're, you know, the season is counting down now and people are looking for the edge. And when people look for an edge, they look for the swords. They look for the people who can slash through the field with 2 kicks of a football, getting 10 points, 3 bonus. That's why I start Ekitike instead of Tarkowski. That's why I started Phil Foden over Mukiele, because what they can produce when it all goes well, what they can produce when they go on the attack. But what are we seeing? We're seeing the DEFCON daddies bringing it home time and time again. And if everyone keeps going for the attackers, maybe the consistency of the defenders. You see, people criticise my strategy, like D-Unit. He understands it now. It may not be a plan for everyone, but it's my plan. And my plan, take the hit. Then I've got 2 transfers in mind. One is Foden to Fernandes. Lost a bit of money, not the end of the world. The other one was Lewis Hall to Daniel Munoz. But I look at Palace now, what a mess. What a shambles they've become. So I don't know if I will go Munoz. I might keep Lewis Hall because it's a nice benchable option at times. Oh, excuse me. He's a nice benchable option. But I might just switch him out. I might go back to Senesi. I might go to another DEFCON daddy. Maybe Joaquin Anderson, who knows? I don't know, I'd have to look. But that's an option. Maybe I keep Hall, maybe I get Elderette, I get double Sunderland, who knows? I'd have to look up the situation. But then I've made them 2 transfers. And then that leaves me, because I've taken the hit, this is the plan. Take the hit, which I've done. Leaves me 4 transfers that I can make, 5 transfers, 4 plus Fernandes, that I can make before game week 32. Then, game week 32, I can enter with the wild card, and then 33 through 38, I've got my trips, I've got 5 free transfers, I know exactly what the fixtures are, and I know exactly what I need to do to achieve my aims. I know exactly the level of risk I need to engage in to achieve my aims. And it's funny because I did the whole Sol versus Solio series. I had them all on, you know, all these experts of the game. And FPL Fran, Nick Trigger, the D unit, Trout from Solio. And what I've taken away from that exploration into projection models isn't actually about the projected points. It's about the risk, how to engage in risk. And that's why I like the conversations, because you can be talking about one thing and then almost by accident, you can come across the solution for a completely different problem in the game. And that's what I feel like I've done, because now in talking to Trout, I enjoyed the projection talk. I have enjoyed exploring them, but it's a risk engagement. At the end of the season, if you've got all your chips, you know exactly what you need to do. You know the risk to take. If I can get up to 200,000, last 7 game weeks, wild card, 5 transfers, all my other chips, 200,000, I don't need to go wild. Just 2 or 3 little moves here or there, you know. Maybe an Umbumo instead of a Verts or something like that. You know, I don't know, I'm just throwing names off the top of my head. It would obviously depend on the doubles and the blanks. If I'm at 1 million, 1.3 million like I am now, somehow, even though I took a -8, you know, then I need to engage in more risk. Maybe I need 8 differentials, and maybe I end up 2.5 million. Maybe I somehow get back up to, you know, the 200,000, 100,000 mark. We just don't know. But that's what saving everything for the running gives you the power to do. If I use my wild card now, I'll end up with the same team as everyone else in the transfers. So that's why I took the hit. And that's why I brought in these robust long-term players. I brought in Timber because I'm always going to want triple Arsenal. I've got the best 2 defenders. That's fine. I don't need to think about that. Although I could bench Timber next week. Because if I bring in Fernandes, and I think Fernandes can score, if Timber's at left back, he's not the same threat going forward. Gabriel could still get the big header, boosh. But could I go against Timber? Could he be the one benched? Maybe. These are the considerations, and we have a bit of time to think. I brought in Ghana. Just a solid player, solid option, you know. And 4 points seems to be his flaw. So I get him in, and he's 5.1 million. If I bench him, that's fine. Because if somebody misses out, there's Ghana. I could bring him in against anyone. Aston Villa chasing the title, 4 points, nearly got an assist. You know, these DEFCON players, they excel against the tougher teams because there's more chance to rack up the DEFCONs. Perfect sub-option. And of course, Igor Thiago is, you know, he is what he is. He is a consistent goals threat, a consistent goal scorer. They've got Dango Ouattara back, so the penalties should start racking up. He might struggle in the next few weeks. Maybe I'll bench him. Well, I won't be benching him against Forest, but, you know, these are the options. I bring in these players and I've got the selection difficulties each week, but if I've got a selection difficulty, I don't need to make a transfer. And if I don't need to make a transfer, I can save up the transfers for that running power. And that is what it is all about now. And you might think it's a bad plan, but it is my plan. And one thing I've been guilty of this season, I have come up with so many great plans and I have failed to follow through on them. And that's what I've got to do now. It's what I've got to do. I've got to follow through on this plan. And it leaves me Fernandes in for Foden. Maybe somebody gets injured in the week. Bruno Guimaraes gets injured in the week. Maybe I take a hit. Get Fernandes in for Guimaraes. Maybe I get rid of Ekitike, although I quite like Ekitike. Fair enough, he's not done anything against the bad teams. But if he's playing tougher teams, they're going to engage in attacking more. And it'll open up the space. And I mean, he could have got something against Burnley. Very unlucky. So I'm happy to gamble, perhaps. But then I could just, maybe that's the plan. If somebody gets injured, if Guimaraes gets injured, if Rice gets injured, I could take the hit, get rid of Ekitike as well. And then, you know, I've got the plan. It doesn't matter. I'm rambling a bit now. You're making me lose my train of thought by trying to formulate a plan on the fly when I've got the plan. It is robust DEFCON daddies until 31. What my plan is, Fernandes in for Foden. I feel like that will be the play. Then what? The week after, it was going to be Hall to Munoz. Maybe it'll be Guimaraes to Enzo Fernandez. And then the week after that, maybe it's Lewis Hall to Munoz. Maybe instead of Munoz, I get Chalobah or Reece James, although Reece James does not fit the robust mould. Well, he's done well this season, to be fair. The options are there, you know, and then after that, I've still got 2 transfers in the bank. Save them ones for emergencies. I do want rid of Henderson. I do. And I look at Pickford and I thought, if I'd have taken that hit for Pickford all them weeks ago when I talked about it, I'd have been laughing now. If I'd have done it for any keeper, I'd probably be laughing now. But it is what it is. And look, Pickford is outscoring Henderson by a point a game week, pretty much. And I've got, 9 game weeks to go until the wild card. But then I think, is it worth it? If it gets me an extra 5 points over them 9 game weeks, maybe. But then I look at Pickford's running to that the wild card. I think he's got Man United, Newcastle, Arsenal and Chelsea in 5 game weeks. So I feel like I don't trust Henderson, but I'm going to listen to my man Gary Beer. He always says it's not worth a hit for the keeper in any game week. And, you know, obviously I think, oh, if I got Sanchez, I would have been flying. If I got Pickford this week, I'd have been flying. But, you know, if Henderson had kept a clean sheet against Sunderland, I'd have been flying as well. So we just don't know. Maybe Glasner will sort himself out. Maybe Crystal Palace will bring in the most defensive manager in the history of defences and play 10 men behind the ball. We just don't know. So, yeah, I feel like that's the formula of my plan. Bruno Fernandes in for Foden this week. Maybe next week. Maybe I'll take the opportunity to... Maybe what I'll do is say that I knew what I was doing when I didn't get Foden in. And I instead chose to keep him for the Wolves game, because who would bring in Bruno Fernandes against Arsenal when Phil Foden is playing Wolves? Maybe I'll make out like it was all part of the master plan, but you'll know and I'll know. But the rest of them won't know, so they'll keep that between us. But no, I think I will make the move, even though I've lost the money. There's no point costing yourself points through sulking. And like, from what I saw, you know, Arsenal, they didn't concede a lot of XG against Nottingham Forest, but they certainly conceded chances. And you look at that Mbeumo goal, that breakaway, pace, decisiveness. And that is certainly a goal you could see the Arsenal conceding to Man United, to Bruno Fernandes. So we'll see. I would imagine I will probably, you know, I do like the idea of giving Foden that chance, but like my man Trig says, is he even going to play? If he comes off the bench for a one-pointer, and then Bruno Fernandes hits the DEFCONs, even if Fernandes does nothing else, Fernandes will quadruple Foden's tally. And it just brings me back to the point I keep making. DEFCON daddies. So, no, a lot to think about there. Right, I'm going to call it because I need to get back to me pie. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.